So the boat arrives, and after explaining things in German to them, adds that this is where he invents all kinds of crap, and there's to be no touching in here, and especially don't tell anyone what they see. Inside is madness, like Salvador Dali had some bad acid kind of madness. But eventually he reveals the greatest, the everlasting gobstopper. He gives one to each of them, after making them swear they'll never share them with anyone else. Yeah, I trust an oath from them as much as a wedding vow at a 3 a.m. Elvis chapel in Vegas. Well, time for the next big thing, which is this big thing. A machine that is bringing the enormity of a 3-course dinner down to a single piece of gum. Well, Violet, who is obsessed with gum, naturally has to try it out.
Stop, don't.
Well, he's done his due diligence. It's a great meal in a stick of gum, the only downside being that when she reaches the blueberry pie, she changes color.
You're blowing up!
I feel funny!
Got a case of the blues. Naturally, this demands a song while rolling her around like a beach ball as they decide the best way to get her to the juicing room. And they go with another moral lesson, as Baby Got Back would probably be inappropriate. If you're wondering, yeah, chewing gum was one of the things that pissed Roald Dahl off to no end. The Oompa Loompas in the book go on and on and on about how awful it is. It's a complete operetta on the gum-chewing woman's plight. The filmmakers basically have to tone down these long diatribes into a brief song for the Oompa Loompas to actually get through. And even in this case, they feel the need to note that chewing gum is fine in moderation, to help quit smoking or for dental hygiene. And it makes sense. I mean, if the moral lesson is don't chew gum, it's bad, why is Willy Wonka making gum? Next, Wonka shows off the lickable wallpaper, although parenting has taught me that apparently anything is lickable if you're determined enough. Next up is fizzy lifting drinks, which fills you with gas that allows you to float. I think they sell something similar at Burning Man. Well, having learned nothing from just watching a girl get turned into a blueberry, Grandpa Joe suggests to Charlie that they try out the stuff even after Wonka says not to. After playing around for a while, naturally things go wrong, like they usually do when you ignore the eccentric genius with an army of orange dwarves. They're in danger of being pulled into the fan.
There's nothing to grab onto! Help! We're gonna get killed!
Oh no.
Just keep your hands on the wheel! Slow down!
Not killed.
Fortunately, if they belch out the floating gas, they can slowly descend back to the floor. This scene was added to the film, and the next one replaces the squirrel scene from the book. We'll get to the squirrels next week. Instead, since this is 6 years before even Star Wars, we get the geese that lay the golden eggs instead. Good eggs are ready to be shipped out. Bad eggs go down the chute. Well, white privilege in a red dress demands that her father get her a golden goose, but Wonka isn't selling, causing Veruca to break into her song, I Want It Now. Well, she sure gets it. Ah, that's what peace sounds like. Wonka reveals that's a garbage chute and it leads to the furnace, so Mr. Salt jumps in after her. But there's a 50-50 chance the furnace isn't lit today. Incidentally, some people say that the film Wonka is some kind of sociopath, but I should note that not only is this directly what happens in the book, I mean, as far as his response goes, upon hearing about the furnace, Grandpa Joe is only interested in hearing the next Oompa Loompa song. The overall attitude seems to be, y'all brought this shit on yourselves. Well, next up is the Wonka-mobile, powered by carbonation and specifically designed to soak the occupants in foam. Why make a crap load of money if you can't enjoy spending it?
That's as far as it goes. Can we have walked?
If the good Lord had intended us to walk, he wouldn't have invented roller skates.
Of course Jesus invented roller skates. How do you think he fed 5,000 people with all that bread and fish otherwise? Time to suit up, because he's interested in showing Wonka-vision next. I guess it needs a sort of clean room environment, like making delicate electronics, though preparing to clean up after a plane crash might be more appropriate. They're ready to try out the Wonka-vision. It's like television, only instead of sending a picture, you send an actual object, a bar of chocolate in this case. You have to start with a giant chocolate bar, though, to wind up with a normal one on the other side. So you may save on logistics, but you're really going to take a loss at the cost of your product. Well, Mike figures this is the perfect chance to embrace his love of television and sends himself with it, only to wind up even smaller than an Oompa Loompa. Well, Wonka says we're going to have to put him in a taffy pulling machine to try to restore him to the correct height.
What's he saying?
No, I won't hold you responsible.
See, Wonka's a great guy. He's very good to his employees. They then sing against a glut of TV watching. Reading a book means you get no commercials, they say. On an unrelated topic, Netflix purchased the rights to the entirety of Roald Dahl's stories, so soon you can binge them on Netflix, which is very affordable if you get the standard with ads plan. Well, that's the end of the tour. Something I hear repeatedly is that unlike the book and the Johnny Depp version, the fate of the kids is left in the air. Which is crap because Wonka very specifically states that they will be fully restored to their normal selves. And as established, he could be lying, but there's no reason to assume he is. About this specifically, saying that he lies about why he put shoes into a pot is different than saying he lied about whether or not people live or die. That kind of accusation should get a bit more evidence behind it than, but he's been known to fib. Grandpa Joe goes to find out about the lifetime supply of chocolate, only to be told Charlie's not getting it. And he really lays into them about the fizzy lifting drinks thing. I mean, like they were peeping on his mother or something, kind of laying into them. Grandpa Joe is irate that there are to be consequences for their actions, and makes clear to Charlie that they're going to trade the everlasting gobstopper to Slugworth. Instead, Charlie leaves it with Wonka. Well, that was actually a test. The supposed Slugworth actually works for Wonka. This change from the book is because otherwise, well, the chocolate factory is just the Thunderdome. Whoever's left standing at the end is the winner. But here, Charlie must actually demonstrate his worth beyond not getting screwed up thanks to his own stupidity. Well, he's delighted then to take the two of them into the Wonkavator, a great glass elevator, capable of moving in any direction, like a politician. Charlie gets to push the only button that has never been pushed before and sends them up through the roof and flying over the city. Wonka explains that all of this was to find a child who could take over the factory when he's gone, learn all of his secrets. About candy making, let's probably just leave it at that. As I mentioned, next week I'm going to be talking about the Tim Burton, Johnny Depp, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. So I'm going to hold off on talking about some things about this film. I do, however, want to discuss Gene Wilder's performance as Willy Wonka. It's made by his deaf skill. That's really what helps make this film. Knowing when to bring his performance up and knowing how to run on subtlety and nuance. There's a reason that condescending Wonka became a meme, where they took an image of a moment when he was handing out temptations to children. That there are such shades to his performance is amazing. The thing about the parents of the four other children is that, while Veruca is the most obvious, each of them have ineffectual parents who have created rotten kids as a result. Salt has obviously spoiled Veruca rotten, and she's a self-involved brat. Yet the song notes that despite being a terror, her parents made her that way by indulging her every whim. As the book notes in the song, a girl can't spoil herself. Yet Augustus' parents let him eat what he likes with no regard for his well-being because it's easier that way. And clearly they don't set a very good example. His father ate the end off a microphone, for Christ's sakes. The TVs are the same. They have outsourced the parenting of their son to a box, leading to his views on violence and on an interest in celebrity. Even Violet is filled with bad habits beyond just chewing gum. She picks her nose, she talks back, she lacks proper manners because her father lacks them, taking every chance to try to hoodwink people out of their money. These kids are all lost causes. What makes Charlie stand out is not that he didn't do a bad thing, because as noted, he disobeyed and stole from Mr. Wonka. No, what makes him stand out is because after that, what child isn't naughty from time to time? Charlie recognized that he had done something wrong. He was a naughty boy and he had to take his medicine. And Charlie quietly accepted his punishment. It's been suggested that Willy Wonka is a narcissist looking to perpetuate himself in a child that he can shape into himself. I think it's more accurate to say that Wonka, due to his competitors stealing his work and driving him to near ruin, is mistrustful of adults and thus seeks a child, but not any child, a child that doesn't think of themselves first. When he says that he doesn't want an adult who will do it a way different than his own, it's not about the specifics. It's about the philosophy. After all, Slugsworth's candy isn't bad. It can compete with Wonka's after all. But the man's philosophy is incompatible with Wonka's vision for what making candy should be. Consider what the song The Candyman said about why he can do this. Because he mixes it with love and makes the world taste good. Slugworth's candy isn't made with love, but with greed and envy. It may be sweet, but it lacks the essential element. Also, consider the song Wonka himself sings. Anything you want to, do it. But then follows it with, want to change the world, there's nothing to it. The song is not about indulging your every whim. On the contrary, a big part of the lessons of the film are that you shouldn't do that kind of thing. The song is called Pure Imagination because that's the point. Anything in your imagination is possible. Anything can be done. Anything can be changed. There are infinite possibilities before you. There's a vital distinction between being childish and childlike. Childish is selfishness, petulance, while childlike is joy, imagination. An adult can steal what Wonka has made, but only a child can understand how and why he made them. Think about the things we have seen throughout. Tossing shoes in to give it a little kick. Tossing a coat in because the drink's too cold. Tossing a clock in to avoid wasting time. Licking wallpaper, getting messy, riding where you could have walked. What are they? Play. Nonsense. Silliness. Wonka is a very intelligent man. Many of his quotes are directly taken or twisted from others to show he's well-read and quick with a thought. Yet he indulges silly behavior for its own sake. He's bothered by Mike TV's questions because they strip all the fun away. A little nonsense now and then is relished by the wisest man. Who do you give this to? The power of pure imagination? The power to change the world? Who, if he wants to do something, to just do it? Someone who shows they do it with the love, joy, and honesty to use it wisely. So yes, one could say that Wonka wants to perpetuate himself in a child. But considering all he wants is to bring love and joy to the world in the form of candy, isn't what he wants to perpetuate virtues? And are these not virtues that Charlie has, and things to learn what he wants to know? I look on things with a critical eye, don't get me wrong. But what I see is not a narcissist. I see someone who has a way of seeing the world and is seeking someone who sees it the same way. Wonka sets people up to fail only in that he gives them the freedom to make bad choices over his warnings. As he says to Charlie, maybe they're a little wiser for the wear. And if you think about it, Charlie made a bad choice too, over Wonka's warning. And he was the wiser for the wear. He realized that he'd screwed up and wanted to make it right. You can think of Wonka as some kind of grand chess master who brought all these people in here to screw with them. But personally, I think the chocolate factory was a kind of crucible, grinding people down and seeing what they were made of. See if there was anyone there that was compatible with the vision that he had for what he had created. I mean, after all, think about all of the controversies that have come to places where successors just didn't live up to the vision of those that had created them. It's not that other people can't have good ideas, but if they're not born from the right place, if they're not brought into existence by someone with the right attitude, then ultimately, that chocolate bunny is just hollow. All hail your